When we think of pirates, we often picture those who were active in the Caribbean during the late 17th and early 18th centuries. Flamboyantly dressed, armed with cutlasses and pistols, readily seeking out new treasures from aboard their sailing ships, with the Jolly Roger flying from the top mast. Modern media depictions have certainly reinforced this stereotype, but as we shall explore in this video, the historical truth is somewhat obscured by myth and fantasy. This is the history of the real pirates of the Caribbean. The discovery of the Americas by Europeans in the late 15th century paved the way for the exploration and eventual settlement of the continent in the following decades, principally by the Spanish. The founding of these new colonies led to the establishment of trade and commerce between the Old World and the New, with people and manufactured goods leaving for the Americas, and valuable raw materials such as tobacco, sugar, gold, and silver making the return journey to Europe. By the mid-16th century, the political situation in Europe was fractious, to say the least. The main superpower at the time was Spain, with an ever-expanding overseas empire and increasing material wealth, sparking jealousy and animosity among their European rivals, particularly France. The emergence of the Protestant Reformation had also split Europe on religious and sectarian lines, with nations such as the Netherlands and England choosing to break away from the Catholic faith and oppose the influence of the Pope, and ultimately Spain, who were his military enforcers. The French, English, and Dutch, all seafaring nations, wanted empires and riches of their own. But these ambitions inevitably drew them into conflict with Spain. However, rather than continue costly wars in Europe, they spotted opportunities to attack the more vulnerable Spanish possessions in the New World, notably by robbing their treasure ships and sacking their important settlements on the Spanish Main, such as Cartagena, Portobello, and Panama City, as well as Caribbean settlements like Havana and Santo Domingo. All of these factors led to the birth of piracy in the Caribbean. Initially, such activities were mostly dominated by French privateers. The distinction between this and illegal piracy being that privateers were sanctioned by the state with a letter of marque, giving them permission to rob and plunder Spanish targets in exchange for a percentage of the spoils. Privateers such as Jean Fleury, François Leclerc, and Jacques de Sors wrought havoc on Spanish settlements and shipping, carrying off great treasures in the process. Later in the 16th century, war broke out between England and Spain, leading to the rise of English privateers like Sir Francis Drake, Sir Richard Hawkins, and Sir Walter Raleigh. They shared in the success of their French counterparts, but without permanent bases in the Caribbean, their raids had limited impact, as they always had to return to Europe. The Spanish responded by adding heavily armed escort vessels to their treasure fleets. By the early 17th century, Spain still held most of the land in the Caribbean. However, French, English, and Dutch colonizers began encroaching on less frequented Spanish territory. Around 1625, mostly French settlers on the northwestern shores of Hispaniola sustained themselves by hunting local animals and smoking their meat over wooden frames in a process known as boucan, giving rise to the name buccaneers, meaning smoked meat hunters. They were hunters, not yet pirates. Spanish governors attempted to eliminate these settlements, forcing the buccaneers to flee to Tortuga. By 1630, lacking resources and seeking revenge on Spain, the buccaneers turned to piracy en masse, attacking treasure ships and keeping the spoils. The Spanish repeatedly tried to remove them but failed long-term, as more French, English, and Dutch settlers joined them. In 1640, the French engineer Jean Levasseur built a fort on Tortuga, allowing pirates safe harbor in return for a share of the loot. Tortuga became the first pirate port in the Caribbean. The buccaneers called themselves the Brethren of the Coast, organizing into a loose coalition. Before raids, they elected captains and drafted articles, pirate codes, detailing rules, discipline, and the distribution of plunder. These codes were surprisingly democratic for their time. Punishments ranged from pay cuts to whipping, and in severe cases, execution or marooning. By 1654, the Spanish invaded Tortuga, forcing the buccaneers out temporarily, but they soon returned. By 1660, the island became predominantly French and under French control. Meanwhile, the English captured Jamaica in 1655, making Port Royal a new pirate hub. Letters of marque were issued by English and French governors, making both Port Royal and Tortuga thriving pirate bases. One of the most famous privateers of the time was Christopher Mings, noted for large-scale raids including his massive 1663 attack on Campeche. Among his crew was Henry Morgan, who later became one of the most renowned buccaneers. Despite restrictions that barred him from attacking settlements, Morgan ignored his orders and raided Portobello, Maracaibo, Gibraltar, and most famously Panama in 1671, earning him a fortune and eventually a knighthood. Other legendary buccaneers, Coxswain, Sharp, Sawkins, launched the Pacific Adventure of 1680, one of the greatest pirate expeditions of all time. As a result of these raids, Port Royal flourished, becoming wealthy but infamous for debauchery. Contemporary accounts describe pirates spending thousands of pieces of eight in a single night. All of this changed on June 7, 1692, when a catastrophic earthquake destroyed much of Port Royal, much of it sinking underwater. Although partially rebuilt, it never fully recovered. Even before the earthquake, Port Royal was shifting from privateering to plantation and slave-based commerce. Anti-piracy laws were introduced, and the port eventually became the execution ground for pirates. The decline of buccaneering had multiple causes: peace with Spain, infighting between pirate factions, the unpredictability of pirate income, and European powers hiring former pirates into their navies. As Caribbean piracy declined, some pirates turned to the Indian Ocean, creating the Pirate Round, targeting East India Company ships and Mughal and Arab merchants. Henry Every is the most renowned pirate from this era. His visit to Nassau in 1696 helped set the stage for the island becoming a future pirate stronghold. The War of the Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1714, saw many settlers flee Nassau, while English privateers increased. After the war ended, many privateers became unemployed and turned to piracy, forming what became known as the Pirate Republic, a loose but effective confederation of pirates, including Hornigold, Vane, Calico Jack, Stede Bonnet, Blackbeard, Mary Red, and Anne Bonny, controlled Nassau. The pirate lifestyle, with democratic leadership and equal shares of plunder, attracted sailors fleeing harsh naval conditions. Nearly 1/3 of active pirates were of African descent. Eventually, their activities threatened major trade routes, especially the slave trade. In 1717 and again in 1718, King George I offered pardons to pirates who surrendered. Uptake was initially low, prompting England to send Woodes Rogers as the new governor of the Bahamas to suppress piracy,